Hey guys, how are you? So, in this video we're going to talk about consideration of the second language acquisition. So, let's start.
Hi, I'm going to talk about the first consideration, that is the neurological, and say that the human brain has lateralization, and we have two hemispheres. For example, in the left hemisphere, the functions are the analytic thought, the math, sense, language, and the logic. And the right, we have the creativity, art, music, the holistic thought, and we have the imitation. We know that we use these hemispheres. For example, the children use the right hemisphere because there are much creativity and they don't have mistakes. They are not afraid. But adults use the right left hemisphere, because they only think about mistakes. For example, they think that they cannot learn a second language and it's so difficult for them to learn. Well, the third is the cognitive considerations. We know that in this we learn how the people learns in age. For example, Jean Piaget said that we have four stages. The first is the when we pierce to age of 2 and is the sensomotor, and we can learn with different sense. For example, listen, smells, touch, see. The second is the age of 2 to 7 and is the proportional. We can relation since the third is 7 to 11 years and is the concrete operational statement. We can have a conversation and we can understand the things. The fourth is the formal operant. For example, we can understand the good or bad things. We can have a systematic or we are organized our activities. We can we can have organization of the our knowledge and do different things. All of these are relational with the emotions, with the affective attitude or egocentric that we have.
Hi guys, and now I'm going to talk about the affective consideration. First, the human beings are very emotional creatures, and the affective includes a lot of factors, but I'm going to say only four. First, we have empathy, extroversion second, the third, inhibition, and the last, imitation. We have a lot more. But start with the affective consideration, how the emotion affect when we try to learn a second language. First, very young children are very egocentric. For them, the world revolves around them, or they think the event or action are focusing on them. But for small babies, at first do not even distinguish what is the world and what is them. They don't distinguish. But children like 2, 3, 4 years, for them, the world focusing only on them. And when we talk about how children learn the second language, or when they try to speak the first language, they don't care if they have a mistake. Our children don't care if he or she are talking in English and have a mistake. For them, they are the best. They are the best. And for me, I don't care if I have a mistake. I want to speak because I want to communicate my idea. That's how children's for what children can learn more fast than adults. But if we talk about children they are growing, they become more aware of themselves on self-causes of they fix both to define and understand their self-identify. But their self-awareness is coupled with awareness of others. How can we what what's thing that? First, if we talk about children like 10 years, 11, 12, well, they think, oh, I have 10, so I'm good in English. But if what his friend or her friend have 5, what's the children who has 10 going to say? Oh, you can't do nothing. That can happen. And what happened with the children who have a 5? Well, you're going to be sad, and that can affect because his or her mind going to close, and I can't do nothing. I can't do nothing. I can't do nothing. And the words, and he is the best, and that's it. Well, it seems clear that negative attitude can affect when we try to learn a language. And that's affecting adults too, because when try to say a sentence in English, if they are trying to learn a second language, they only going to think, if I think, it's because I'm trying to create a sentence first. But if I'm going to talk and I have a mistake, the people can be laughing because they think they're going to think I can't speak English. That's how the affective and emotion affects when we try to learn a second language. When we are children, we speak and we don't care if we have a mistake. When we're growing, like the age of 10, 11, 12, we're going to think, I have a mistake, and if the others see, they're going to laugh at me. But if they laugh at me, the children's going to be sad, and that can affect when they try to learn the language because their mind closed and I can't. I'm never going to learn because the other people think he's best, but I'm the worst. That's how the child like 10 years ago thinks. But an adult is more different than child because they can have the answer, but they don't speak because they think if I have a mistake, they all here going to laughing, and I don't want to be this happen or that happened. And that's how the affecting concept, how the emotionals affect in the decision as a second language. Hi guys, and now we're going to continue with my second topic, and that is the linguistic consideration. First, when we are talking about linguistic consideration, we need to include the bilingualism. It's when a child learns 2 different languages simultaneously, use the same acquisition strategies, and since learning 2 languages and distinct to appropriate the concept on each language. And have 2 categories. The first, simultaneous. When we are talking about someone to learn simultaneous 2 languages, it's when he have English and Spanish and learn at the same time. And that can be successive when a child learns first English and in a period of time he's going to learn Spanish. But what can happen when someone are bilingual? Where he can use the conjugation, it's when they are talking, for example, English, and that person is going to include some words, phrases, sentences in Spanish. And it's like, for example, please don't park your carro in that place. Or please give me the what? Give me the pastel because it's new. He are talking English, but he includes another language. And there are another thing that can be affected when we are trying or can be happen where we are trying to speak two language. And it is the heritage language acquisition when in your home only speak English, but outside your home only speak Spanish. Or in the home only speak Spanish and outside your home only speak English. And the child are learning both language in different places. But we have someone more. The researchers said the first and the second language acquisition have the same strategies and linguistic features. It's like when you are speaking Spanish and you're going to speak English, you're going to have the same strategy to learn the both language. Another thing is the adults think or found errors in children's learning their mother tongue. It's like I speak English and my children is going to speak English. I'm going to find all the errors that he created when he tried to communicate. But that can be affected because he are learning and that can be like, no, don't say that, no. He's going to try to do the best to try to communicate. And the adults are more cognitively secure when they try to talk someone in another language. But that can be affected like the emotion, like if I say something, they can laughing about what I'm talking or I'm trying to speak English. And we have the order acquisition. It's like the step when we try to speak another language. First, I am going to learn that, then I'm going to learn that. It in all the languages around the world are the same. We have the order, we have steps by step to learn a language. And now I'm going to talk about the critical period hypothesis, what's first proposed by Montreal neurologist Wither Penfield and the co-author Lemar Reverse in the 1959 books Speech and Brain Mechanist. The critical period hypothesis is the subject of a long study divided in linguistic and language acquisition over the extent to which ability to acquire. Well, the critical period talk about the period of growth in willful native competence is possible to acquire a language. And we have three areas. First, childhood, second, the adolescent, and finally the adult. But the period is more focusing in the childhood and the adolescence. Well, that hypothesis says, and the acquisition theory says too, that adults do not acquire language as well as children of internal and external features. That can be said. A child, they don't care if they have mistakes, and he's going to speak. But an adult is going to be a little more difficult because they what? They can think, if I say I can have a hero, this can be a factor that can affect when they try to speak. But other is when we try to use our mouth or speech muscles. Young children it's much easy to speak. They're going to learn the sentence more fast. But an adult who have the first language and he want to speak English, it's very difficult to learn the sentence. And that is the critical period that is much easy learn a second language when you are a child, then it's a little bit hard when you are an adult.
Hello. Well, I will going to talk to you about the acculturation model. This theory shows us different factors that influences on the process of second language acquisition. The first factor is the social dominance that could be referred about If you understand a topic that is popular in a specific place, maybe you can talk more easy. Then is the adaptation, that is the second factor. These factors maybe first, if you feel comfortable in a specific place, maybe you can express more easier and you can feel free to talk. The third is the enclosures. This refers that it's much better learn in groups. Could be in your schools, or if you work in obviously in the work or in the church, in any place. The fourth is the cohesiveness, and the fifth is the size. This refers if your group that you are learning is big, could be more easy. The reason could be because you can express more. The, the seventh is congress. This refers if the culture of two groups are very similar, you can talk more easy because you know that culture and you can express or interact. And the last could be the most important, that is the attitudes. This because obviously we know if we have a good attitude, we can make our things in a best way. But if you had a bad attitude, maybe you don't feel, or maybe you feel lazy to make something. So I think the last factor is the most important for the process of the second language acquisition. I'm going to talk to you about the communication accommodation theory. This theory refers about the tone of voice that we make with different people and in different situations. This theory had two types. The first is the convergence, that is refers that we make a tone of voice to impress or get an approval of something. For example, your tone of voice when you are in an interview is not the same that when you are with your friends. And the second type is the divergence, that it refers that we make a tone of voice depending of the attitude or the behavior that we have. For example, your tone of voice is not the same when you are happy that when you are angry. Your tone of voice when you are angry could sound more offense than when you are happy. And finally, I will going to talk about the discourse theory. This theory refers for the expressions, human expressions, and the form of the language that we applied in a process of the second language acquisition.
So I will talk about for the monitor model. The monitor model was founded by Stephen Krashen, and this model consists in how we acquire the second language for our environment. For example, in the classroom or in our house, who we expose to many times in the second language. So this is the method it's used for the acquire in the significant and the knowledge significate. So this is called. I will talk about for the universal hypothesis. This universal hypothesis consistent for Noam Chomsky, and he talked on who is the we have the same system of the length of the grammar and language, and who has the similar things in the two different language. For example, in Chinese or in Spanish we say mama, and Chinese is mouth. So I remember that in France is we talk the variable competence model. This competence model was foundation for the Rob Ehrlich for in the 1984. This is talk about who has the process of the language with a process and production. The process who's will learn for the second language, and the production who's you practice the language using the same rules and the same types of the pronunciation, and you try to explain your ideas or a conversation with a second language.
So guys, that was our video. I'm Rufino.
I'm Carla.
Anthony.
I am Manuel.
And thanks for watching the video.
Bye.
Bye.